All right, good evening. I have 6:34. I'm here to call a special committee of the whole meeting to order for Tuesday, October 29th, 2019. President Traxler is running late, so I'll be running the beginning of this meeting. Pat, if you're ready, could you please take a roll call for us?
Gray?
Present.
Johnson?
Here.
Reed is not here yet. Ryan?
Here.
Tome?
Here.
Traxler is coming along.
All right, we do have a quorum. The next item is to approve the agenda for the evening. Unless there's any alterations or deletions, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, new business. We have budget reviews. The first budget to review is going to be our TIF number 3. Kim, I'll turn it over to you and you can run us through it.
Sounds good. In looking at TIF number 3, we really aren't seeing anything that's out of the ordinary from last year's budget. We plan to make the debt payments according to the debt service schedules that we have. Last year, we did make a prepayment and paid down a little bit more of that debt. This year, I'm not projecting to do that. Right now, it looks like that's really about the only activity. There really isn't anything, like I said, out of the ordinary from the 2019 budget to the 2020. The only little caveat is that the personal property tax aid did go up for the TIF number 3 from $26.62 in 2019 to $84.38 in 2020.
And that TIF is scheduled to close in year 2023.
That is correct.
We're past the expenditure
Period,
period.
yes.
Okay, so there won't
right
be-
now, we're really just collecting the increment, making the required payments to the developers that are, that we have agreements with, and making the debt service payments, and those will be paid off before, are expected to be paid off before the TIF closes.
Okay. Are there any questions for Kim on TIF number 3? It's not really a budget that we talk about. It's a report, I guess, of the performance and what to expect next year. So if there aren't any questions, let's move on to item B then, which would be TIF number 4.
All right, well, TIF number 4 is a very similar situation. At this point in time, we don't have any projects that are currently in the irons or in the fire. The one thing to note is that there was a significant amount of growth in TIF 4 during 2019, roughly $22 million worth. So you can see that the tax increment that is in red, which is still an estimate, will grow significantly. Otherwise, the same situation where we will be making the debt service payments that are required. There's some money budgeted for items like engineering, legal fees, audit, the annual financial report. And one thing that is new to 2020 is that a small amount of staff salaries is going to TIF 4 because of the amount of work that's going into TIF 4. We do that with TIF 3 already. It just felt like it was appropriate to start doing it with TIF 4, and TIF 4 is healthy enough to take on that additional expense. On the second page of this report, it gives you an idea of what we're expecting for payments that will go out to the developers that we currently have agreements with. And you can see the highlighted amount for the Fromm Family Foods, which has seen the most significant growth in the last year. And they are primarily the driver behind that $20+ million improvement to TIF 4. And so that's what it looks like as far as their increment payment going back to them. Other than that, that's the report on TIF 4.
And just to be, for clarification, when you say, you know, we're devoting wages, that's coming out of our portion of the increment that's generated?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not levied taxes that are being put in there, that's coming from the TIF itself?
Correct.
Yep, okay, thank you. Any questions from council on TIF 4? Ed, go ahead.
Well, likewise then, though, that portion of staff salary that's going there is no longer supported by the levy, so that arguably frees up money that would otherwise be supported. All
Yeah.
right, very good.
Right.
Thank you. I just wanted to,
Good question. All right, if there aren't any further questions on TIF 4, we can go to 5. That one should be really easy.
Yep, that's very simple. At this point in time, the only thing that I've got budgeted is the annual state-required fee to recertify your TIF.
Yep.
Obviously, anything that happens there will be eventually decided by council as this TIF grows and hopefully development happens.
Yep. I think we agreed that just to have it in the budget, even if it's all zeros, because we, are obviously, we've created the TIF, we're anticipating something, but we don't have any indication of the timeline yet, so
Right?
we're
We have no-
prepared.
Yeah,
Great.
that's very true.
Any questions on that from the council? All right, Andy gave me a easy meeting to lead here. We'll move on to debt service then next.
In your packet are multiple pages, and it kind of walks you through our debt service picture for 2020. The first is kind of a recap of all of the debt that we have and whose responsibility it is to pay. So you have an idea of what is the general, which is the city's portion, sewer, water, electric, TIF 3 and TIF 4. And then in the middle of the page, you see how the special assessments are actually applied to the city's portion of that debt service payment. On the second page, it gives you an idea of each one of the different special assessments, what's principal and what's interest. It's about $62,000 worth of offset to the debt service payments that are being made on behalf of those specific projects. When you go to the next page and you're actually looking at the debt service budget, it really is one of those things where you look at what revenue sources you have, and then the difference will ultimately be then your tax levy, which is that $780,154. One thing to note is when we bond next year, their activity of the bond will run through this account. The proceeds come through here, and then they're funneled out to the respective accounts that we're bonding for. So in this case, because most of what we're doing is for the capital projects, the proceeds will run through the debt service fund and then will be funneled to the capital projects fund to be able to pay those bills.
If we do bond next year, then though, Kim, that first payment's not made, that will be in the 2021 budget? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
On the second page, it gives you an idea of the expenses, which kind of shows you what there's always an annual audit that's done on our debt service fund, the interest and principal that are expected for the year, and then our disclosure services. What that is we actually, Ellers and I put together a report that goes out to Moody's and the different reporting SEC services on the status of Columbus, our financial position, 10 largest employers, 10 largest taxpayers. It's kind of a culmination of everything, and they really look at even the water usage, sewer usage, electric usage, but that all goes out, and it helps with our bond rating ultimately. So we have Ellers help us with that because they've got the resources to be able to get it to the right places and have it written in the appropriate way. Escrow agent is, again, through Ellers, but what it is we pay a small fee to them every year for managing all of our debt service payments. We were originally kind of a blend between Ellers and the Depository Trust Services in New York, which was not a very, I don't want to be, it wasn't a very easy relationship with DTC because it was such a huge organization that we weren't getting notices that payments were due, even though I knew payments needed to be wired in, and it just wasn't a very efficient process with them. So we actually moved everything into Ellers. They take care of it now. We send them the money and everything goes where it needs to go. So it's much more efficient, and I know that the money's getting where it needs to be in a timely manner. And lastly, along the bottom, you can see the investments that are held by the debt service fund. And it's also kind of lays out 20, 21, and 22 in the use of the Gateway Project special assessment and fund balance going forward, so.
One question about that, let's just, say the special assessment funds or the CEAC restricted funds, et cetera, that have been a zero balance now for a couple of years. How long are those going to stay on there? Or how long do they need to stay on there?
Well, they'll stay on until we probably, what I like to try to do is give at least 5 years of history. So once we get probably into 21, 22, then 15 and 16 will drop off, and then you won't see those anymore.
Okay. And one other question, under transfer to other funds, this year we have the 119, is that the front end loader?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any other questions from council on the debt service? All good? Okay, then let's move on to capital projects. I think we're gonna do kind of a shorter version to keep things moving, but Andy's not here yet, so go ahead and jump in, Kim.
All right. Well, like I mentioned in one of our last meetings, that Capital Projects Fund is a little unique because every year the projects basically change. And that's really the basis of this account is for the larger capital projects that a community might do. Some things to note is we're going to be finishing the facilities study, which is the 2050 roadmap project. In 2020, we anticipate finishing that off, paying off the last of that contracted cost. We really only have two things that are kind of to be determined for this budget this year, and the recycling center is one of them. And I'm going to just quickly touch on the police department building facade. The 23.5 in there was the average between all three of the different bids that we got. So that's just where that number comes from. It's not one company or another, but it's a placeholder to give us an idea of, based on the different companies that had already given us information, what the average was. Just know that I've talked with a gentleman that we had gotten the original bid for the brick on, and they're on a larger project right now, trying to finish up before the snow flies. But he's very interested, and we're gonna plan on meeting at some point and actually going to the police station and having him take a look at it and maybe give us some firmer numbers on that. But I'm gonna turn it over now to Zach to talk about the recycling center.
All right, good evening. So in front of you, you should have a map of our current recycling center, and on the other side is a aerial and a street view of Duffy's in Elba. That's just kind of an example as to what I'm looking, just what I've gathered from staff and from council as to the conversations that have happened in the past. An idea of what I would envision our center looking like in the future is kind of mimic what Elba, Duffy's has going on there. So looking at my great drawings here on the other side, you'll see on the upper left-hand side there's the square there. I would envision that being a concrete pad with those bunkers in there for anything from soil to gravel to bricks, firewood, odds and ends that we get calls from residents that want to get rid of different stuff and they don't ever have anywhere to go with it. I think this would be a good opportunity for us to kind of have a holding spot. Residents can come and take it as they need it or get rid of it. Obviously, we would have to kind of monitor that to make sure nothing gets out of hand. But that's just ideas based off what I've heard here. Just want to get some conversation started. The other part there, the larger part that I've got squared off, is our current brush site. Right now it's just really wet and mushy and hard to work with, so we'd like to do something to firm that up, whether it was put aggregate in there or something just to get a better surface and then hopefully improve that in the future. The roadway back to that other building, that's just to make sure we keep access to that. I don't know the future of that building right now. There's fire department equipment stored there. And then I had heard discussion about a little road that cut through before the shed as well, so I just kind of threw that in there. But really I just want to get conversation started, and I am open to any suggestions, recommendations, wants, wishes.
I like seeing something on paper, just I think having a general outlay, and I think the main goal is segregating things that we can recycle, I guess.
Yeah.
Turn it into more of a recycling center.
Right. One thing that it's just been something we've talked about internally, that might be a option or possibility for the future is to work with Columbia County to maybe possibly create a big, more of a remote site for them, that it wouldn't be just the city of Columbus. You know, you could get Elba and the other neighbors involved, where they could come and recycle or have some drop sites for them as well. But obviously that's farther down the road with discussions with the county.
I like that suggestion. I think before we went to the county and we had a local provider, we had a transfer site essentially. So if our garbage was missed, we had somewhere to go or get rid of a larger, but yeah, having like a transfer site with the county would be great for recycling or larger items. So, all great ideas. I think this is going to be a work in progress, and the only other placeholder I would ask to consider and Zach to think about is the stormwater issues in Fireman's Park. I know we've got a pending project we need to deal with, and I don't know how far we want to get ahead of ourselves or if we just wait another year. But it seems like working with the county has been a success, and I don't know how long that's going to continue, but.
Right, I have not received any more quotes back for that other part yet.
Okay.
So I don't have any better of an idea as to what that would cost. But I do hope to have those. They told me they're gonna be starting that work at the end of this week. So that would mean that they should be out there by no later than tomorrow, having it flagged out. So I'm kind of thinking that might not happen by the end of this week. But nonetheless, I should have quotes here pretty quick.
Excellent. One thought I had there too is if we do want to take that further, we're going to be getting into the football field area. We'll have to communicate with the school, obviously, because putting a ditch between the football field and the parking lot is going to take some planning before that happens. So
Right.
If we get good pricing, that's one thing, but we need to plan that out well in advance. So, Council, have anything else to add?
Oh,
Tina, go ahead.
no, nothing much. It's really nice. I agree with Tom, just seeing a map, any map with a plan, it's wonderful. Thank you for a good start. I like the location for moving the bunkers for the rectangle, and then leaving the huge triangle trapezoid shape for brush sounds great. I don't know if we want to have, 2 different piles for brush. I mean, tons to be discussed. I don't know if I like the path going back to the road, if that'll be trouble for traffic. But thank you. It's a great start to see.
I'm no artist, but you're welcome.
All right, was there anything else on capital projects? I know we kind of need to wrap things up pretty quick tonight. We've just kind of got a quorum a little while ago, and we've got a special meeting after this. We need to take action on a couple of items, so we'll continue the capital projects discussion. Andy?
I apologize that I missed this part. Can you just give me a quick review of what the items on the list that, where you landed on those?
We really haven't gone through it, to tell you the truth. We
Okay.
were figuring almost on tabling this to the next meeting. I think capital projects are going to be a continued discussion, but Zach gave us this, so this is really the recycling
Okay.
center was the focus, so,
Okay, thanks.
yep. All right, thank you for covering all that in such a short period of time, Kim.
You're welcome.
Unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. We will return in just 2 minutes with a special regular meeting. Thank you.